The story of the Library of Alexandria begins not with fire, but with ambition. In the 3rd century BCE, when Alexander the Great swept across the known world, he planted cities in his wake, but none would become more synonymous with knowledge than Alexandria, the coastal city destined to become the intellectual engine of the ancient Mediterranean. After Alexander's death, his general Ptolemy I Soter made Alexandria the capital of Egypt and envisioned a place where the wisdom of all civilizations could be gathered under one roof. It was a radical thought, not just a collection of texts, nor a treasury of royal scrolls, but a central hub of human understanding, a place where the boundaries between cultures, languages, philosophies, and sciences could dissolve into a single pursuit of truth. What began as a dream would become the most famous library in history, a beacon of intellect whose disappearance still haunts scholars and dreamers alike. When the Library of Alexandria reached its height, it was unparalleled. It was said that any ship entering the harbor could be searched, and any scroll on board would be seized, copied by professional scribes, and added to the library's growing collection. Whether this practice was as widespread as legends say remains debated, but the idea reflects the larger ambition. Alexandria sought to contain everything: Babylonian astronomy, Greek mathematics, Egyptian medicine, Persian philosophy, Indian literature, Hebrew scholarship, and knowledge that crossed borders without ever receiving formal credit. The library's scribes collected, translated, compared, and debated texts, working tirelessly under the belief that preserving knowledge was not just a service to Egypt, but to humanity. Within its walls, scholars known as the Mouseion, or the place of the Muses, lived and worked. They were part researchers, part philosophers, part scientists, and part custodians of global knowledge. Figures like Euclid, the father of geometry, once taught in Alexandria. Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the Earth with astonishing accuracy centuries before modern instruments existed. Herophilus performed some of the earliest anatomical studies known, and Aristarchus of Samos proposed that the Earth revolved around the Sun a millennium before Copernicus. The library wasn't just a place to store information, it was a crucible of innovation. And yet, for all its brilliance, the Library of Alexandria has become famous not for what it achieved, but for what was lost. Its destruction is one of history's most enduring mysteries, a tragedy without a single clear culprit. The loss was not recorded in a single moment, and the flames that would later become symbolic may reflect more metaphor than a literal, unified catastrophe. Modern historians believe the library's end was gradual, fractured across centuries of political unrest, conflict, and neglect. But the absence of certainty has fed endless speculation and has made the library's fall one of the most debated historical events of all time. One of the earliest suspected incidents occurred in 48 BCE during Julius Caesar's civil war. Caesar, cornered in Alexandria, ordered the burning of the Egyptian fleet in the harbor. Ancient writers suggest the flames spread to nearby warehouses, some of which may have contained books awaiting transfer to the library. Some later sources claim thousands of scrolls were destroyed, though the reliability of these accounts is uncertain. Even if scrolls were lost, it's not clear whether the main structure of the library itself was damaged. Many historians argue that while this incident was destructive, it was only a partial blow, and that the library survived for centuries afterward. Another turning point is associated with Emperor Aurelian's campaign in the 3rd century CE. During his efforts to reclaim the city from Queen Zenobia of Palmyra, Alexandria became a battleground. Some ancient sources suggest that the district containing the Mouseion was damaged or destroyed in the fighting. Whether the library itself still existed in a recognizable form by this time is unknown. It may have already declined, suffering from reduced funding, internal political struggles, or simple neglect. Yet none of these explanations fully satisfy the mystery, and the lack of clarity has fueled a host of theories. One of the most frequently cited culprits is the conflict between Christians and pagans in the late Roman Empire. In 391 CE, a decree by Emperor Theodosius I banned pagan practices, and Alexandria's great Serapeum, another temple known to house a significant collection of scrolls, became a focal point of the city's religious tensions. When the Serapeum was destroyed by Christian zealots, some later writers interpreted this as the final blow to the library. However, whether the Serapeum scrolls represented an extension of the library or a separate collection entirely remains a matter of scholarly debate. The true library may have already been diminished or even gone by then, leaving the event to be remembered as symbolic rather than literal. And then there is the story of Hypatia, the renowned philosopher, mathematician, and astronomer who lived in Alexandria during the early 5th century. Her brutal death at the hands of a Christian mob in 415 CE has often been linked to the destruction of the library. Yet this connection is more myth than fact. There is no direct evidence that the library still existed during her lifetime. But her murder has become a tragic emblem of the era's hostility toward intellectualism, further reinforcing the narrative of a civilization losing its last great scholar as its greatest library faded into history. The truth is likely a combination of all these events: fires, wars, decrees, neglect, and shifting cultural landscapes. The library's destruction was not a single event, but a prolonged, multifaceted decay. And yet, because no ancient historian documented the definitive moment of its fall, the loss feels even more haunting. It is as though a great mind vanished without witnesses, leaving behind only whispers and regret. The question that continues to echo through time is not just how the library was lost, but what was lost with it. Estimates of the library's size vary widely, from 40,000 to 700,000 scrolls, though such numbers are speculative. What we know is that many texts referenced by ancient authors are no longer extant. Entire treatises of ancient science, works of tragic poets, philosophical schools, astronomical observations, and technological descriptions have vanished. The absence of these works has left gaps in our understanding of ancient civilizations, gaps so deep that scholars often wonder how different human progress might look if even a fraction of these texts had survived. Consider the lost works of historians like Berossus, who wrote about Babylonian cosmology and ancient kings; Manetho, whose Egyptian history survives only in fragments; or the countless treatises of early scientists whose insights may have anticipated later discoveries. Even the works that did survive, such as those of Archimedes or Aristotle, often reference earlier thinkers whose texts were already rare. The library, at its height, may have preserved many of these earlier sources. Its loss may have forced humanity to rediscover knowledge that had once been known, stalling technological and scientific progress for centuries. The disappearance of the library has invited speculation far beyond what the historical record can confirm. Some theories suggest that political motivations may have played a role in its decline. Knowledge is power, and a repository containing the combined wisdom of multiple civilizations could be seen not merely as a scholarly treasure, but as a potential threat. Empires rising and falling may have viewed the library through the lens of political advantage. A ruler with access to its archives might gain legitimacy, insight, or strategic benefit. A ruler threatened by its contents might prefer it weakened or destroyed. Another theory points to religious tensions. As monotheistic belief systems gain dominance, the vast collection of pagan, scientific, and philosophical texts housed in Alexandria may have been seen as incompatible with emerging doctrines. Although most historians reject the idea of a coordinated, deliberate effort to eliminate knowledge, certain individuals and groups may have acted out of zeal, fear, or ideological conviction. If just a few key events or decisions resulted in scrolls being removed, burned, or neglected, the cumulative loss over time could have been catastrophic. There are even more speculative theories, ideas that the library may have contained forbidden technologies, proto-scientific experiments, or records of ancient civilizations whose histories were later rewritten or suppressed. These claims rarely hold up under scrutiny, but their popularity reflects a broader cultural fascination. The belief that the ancient world possessed wisdom far beyond what survives today. The library, as a symbol, has become the ultimate repository of this imagined forgotten knowledge. What is perhaps most compelling about the library's legacy is how it continues to shape modern thought. Its memory has motivated scholars across centuries to preserve and protect knowledge, to create libraries, universities, and research institutions dedicated to the idea that learning is a universal and enduring human pursuit. The dream of Alexandria lives on not in any surviving building or scroll, but in the very concept of shared knowledge. Yet the tragedy remains powerful because it is incomplete. We know enough to understand the library's importance, but too little to fully grasp its contents, its operations, or the precise circumstances of its demise. It is a mystery defined by absences. Historians reconstruct the library not by what remains, but by references scattered across other works, mentions of lost books, quotes from missing authors, descriptions of scholarly projects whose outcomes are no longer known. Every time a modern scholar uncovers a papyrus fragment or deciphers an inscription, it raises the haunting possibility that more pieces of the ancient intellectual world remain hidden, waiting to be rediscovered. Some discoveries have revived hope that not everything was lost. Fragments of ancient texts have emerged from unexpected places: the sands of Egypt, the caves of the Dead Sea, the carbonized ruins of Herculaneum. In recent years, imaging technologies have revealed previously unreadable writings inside damaged scrolls. Each breakthrough suggests that perhaps the story of the library is not entirely over, that some forgotten works may still lie buried, waiting for future generations to bring them back into the light. But even with these findings, the Library of Alexandria remains the ultimate symbol of human fragility. Knowledge, no matter how vast or carefully preserved, is vulnerable. It depends on institutions, on political stability, on cultural support, and on individuals willing to dedicate their lives to its protection. The loss of the library stands as a warning about how easily human achievements can be undone, not just by fire or war, but by indifference, instability, or shifting priorities. The story of the library is also a testament to the resilience of human curiosity. The very fact that its memory endures, despite the absence of its physical structure, suggests that the dream of universal knowledge cannot be extinguished. Modern libraries, digital archives, and global information networks are, in many ways, attempts to rebuild what Alexandria once represented. And although the scale and methods have evolved, the underlying vision remains the same: the belief that all knowledge should be preserved, shared, and made accessible. The loss of the library forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. What might the world look like today if its contents had survived? Would scientific revolutions have emerged sooner? Would historical narratives be different? Would lost philosophies have changed cultural thought? We cannot know. But the magnitude of the library's influence in its prime suggests that its destruction altered the course of human development in ways that are impossible to measure yet too significant to dismiss. As the centuries passed, the physical traces of the library faded. Its walls crumbled, its scrolls disappeared, its scholars passed into legend. But its spirit, the idea of a world united by knowledge, continued to inspire. When Renaissance scholars sought to recover ancient texts, they looked to Alexandria as a model. When Enlightenment thinkers imagined universal encyclopedias, they echoed its ideals. And today, when researchers pursue global archives, digital preservation, and open information, they act in the shadow of a library that ceased to exist long before their world took shape. The Library of Alexandria is a reminder that progress is not linear, and that civilizations can regress as easily as they advance. It challenges the assumption that knowledge is permanent and that today's technological achievements guarantee tomorrow's discoveries. The ancient world was far more advanced, interconnected, and intellectually sophisticated than many modern narratives suggest. Its greatest library embodied this sophistication, and its loss is a stark illustration of how much can vanish without leaving a trace. In the end, the story of the library is not just a story about antiquity. It is a story about today. It asks us to consider how we preserve our own knowledge, how we protect the intellectual achievements of our time, and how we ensure that future generations inherit the wisdom we currently hold. The lesson of Alexandria is clear. Knowledge must be actively safeguarded, or it can disappear. The Library of Alexandria may never be fully understood. Its shelves may remain forever silent, its lost works forever beyond reach. But its legacy persists as a symbol of humanity's highest aspirations, a reminder that even in loss, there is inspiration. The flames that once consumed its scrolls did not destroy the idea behind them. They ignited a longing for understanding that continues to burn across centuries.